Today's gospel is one that most of us remember because it's an intriguing story, but it's never made sense to me. I've never felt comfortable with it at all. So I thought, said to myself, well, let's analyze it. Let's look at the facts that we have and see what we can understand. Okay, first of all, we're told this takes place in Jericho. Jericho was an important city at the time. Did a little research. There had been a town or city or a settlement at Jericho for 9,000 years before Christ. It's an ancient city. So for 9,000 years, people had been living there. The Romans had conquered the area. It was Roman territory now. It's an important city. We're told that Zacchaeus is a short man. We're told that he was the chief tax collector. We assume it's the chief tax collector of Jericho. That is a very prestigious, important, powerful position. Then, just as it is now, collecting taxes is powerful. We are also told, coincidentally perhaps, he was a very wealthy man. That's also a tradition in politics, isn't it? Getting wealthy. So, we see these things. This is what we are told. We know that Zacchaeus was a Jew. His religion was Jewish because Jesus said he was a son of Abraham. So that means he was of the Jewish faith, and that means he was an Israelite. Now, you're telling me that a very wealthy man, the chief tax collector, got so excited about Jesus that he ran and climbed a tree. Now, I don't usually hang out with important people or chief tax collectors or even wealthy people. But my experience has been that chief tax collectors don't climb trees. They have staff that do that for them. If they want information, they don't go out and get it. They send somebody, go find out. Likewise, like I said, I don't hang out with wealthy people, but the few I have known, I never knew any of them to climb trees. They had people who did that for them and brought back the information. No. Zacchaeus wasn't climbing a tree. I believe he climbed the tree. St. Luke's gospel says so, and St. Luke is our patron saint, and thank you, Jesus, for St. Luke and his gospel and for giving him to us as our patron. I trust him. I believe him. So I don't doubt that Zacchaeus climbed the sycamore tree, but it wasn't to see and hear Jesus. Why would somebody do something like that? You know, a lot of times, both in the Old Testament and the New Testament, they talk about people having demons and having the demons cast out of them. And we think, oh, that was probably mental illness. That's what they meant. I think we should re-examine that. I think cancer is a demon. A demon is something inside of you that is clawing you to death from inside. It's killing you from inside, and it's painful. And you can't control it. Cancer is a demon. It may kill you quickly, it may kill you slowly, but it's a demon that kills you. Diabetes is a demon, isn't it? If you have a mild case of diabetes, you can control that pretty easily, but sometimes you lose control and it kills you. Depression is a demon. Mental illness, emotional illness, those are demons that kill you and hold you back. But sometimes people have an evil within them that is not a demon. In a way, it's sort of the opposite. Instead of this horrid pain inside, there's a complete dark emptiness inside you. That's kind of like depression too, isn't it? You don't feel. You're lost. You're empty. And you hate it. And there is no light, it seems, that can take out that darkness. And I'm willing to bet we've got a lot of people here today who are either fighting demons inside of them are struggling to live with that cold, empty darkness inside of them. See, I think that's what was driving Zacchaeus. He was important, he was well known, he was rich, and he was hated. His fellow Israelites hated him because he was working for the Romans who conquered them. You're a Jew and you're working for the Romans, collecting money from us to give to the Romans. We hate your guts. And you call yourself a man of religion? You associate with Gentiles. You do business with people you're not supposed to do business with. You're no good Jew. You're a bad Jew. Don't you tell us you're holy. He was hated. He was rejected. But he had it all. He had power. He had wealth. He had control. And he was absolutely miserable, I'll bet you. It was hard for him to stay alive and function, and it was beginning to scare him. What's going to happen? I'm not in control of my life. And if you've ever felt that, you know how scary that is. That you're not in control of your own life, your own mind, your own body. That's why I think he climbed that tree. He was desperate. Can this man do something for me? I don't know. I need help. And right now, all I can do is run. And he ran. He got up that tree. And there was something about Jesus that grabbed him. And he's looking at him down there. And all of a sudden, Jesus looks up at him and says, Zacchaeus, come down. I'm coming to your house. It's like a miracle, isn't it? No, it's not like a miracle. It is a miracle. It is a miracle. Miracles happen all the time. We don't recognize them, but that doesn't mean they're not happening, okay? It was a miracle. Jesus started healing Zacchaeus at that moment. And Zacchaeus knew it. He sensed it. Something inside of him was being healed. He was still hated by his fellow Jews. He was still regarded with amusement by the Romans. But he knew that Jesus was healing him. And what was his response? He says, Lord, behold, half of my possessions I shall give to the poor. And if I have extorted anything from anyone, I shall repay them 4 times over. Did Jesus tell him to do that? Doesn't say so in the gospel. Did Jesus ask him or suggest it? Did Jesus say, okay, now, if you really want to be saved, what are you going to do for me? No, Jesus just said, Zacchaeus, come down from there and join me. We are going to your house. Jesus accepted Zacchaeus and began the healing. And Zacchaeus said, the only way I can truly be healed by you is to be as loving and generous as you are. Half of all my possessions I will give to the poor. Not just half of the checking account, not just half of what's in his billfold, half of all his possessions. And if I have extorted anyone, if I've been dishonest, I'll repay them 4 times over. That was his response to Jesus. And that's where most of us fail, isn't it? We want Jesus to heal us. We recognize that we are hurting in a way, that we are incomplete in a way that we can't finish. We can't do it ourselves. And our family and our friends, as much as they love us, they can't heal us. Only Jesus. And when he starts healing us, that's when we either have to say, well, thanks, I'm going to go back to doing what I did before. Or we say, I've got to change. I owe you. And you don't want my money. I'll take care of the people around me. The way I can love you is by loving my neighbor. See, that's when we pay the price of our healing, and the healing will grow. We don't want to pay the price, though, do we? Most of us will give our time and our money, our effort to the extent that is convenient, and then wonder why our healing isn't complete. We're not working with God's love, His grace, His mercy. Some people say, how do you get healing from Jesus? You know, do I have to climb a tree? Some of us would be condemned if that's the case. We can't climb trees. Well, if you know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous, you've heard that there's a program that helps people stay sober. It's for alcoholics. That's why they call it Alcoholics Anonymous. And they have 12 steps. And I think their first 3 steps are really impressive. If you want to join Alcoholics Anonymous, the first step, admit that you are powerless over alcohol and your life has become unmanageable. How many of you feel your life is unmanageable right now? No matter how hard you try to control it, you can't control it. As soon as you get one thing in order, something else falls apart, and you start working on that and something else blows up. And you're running from place to place. It's unmanageable. Well, maybe we can learn from AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Admit, I can't control my life. I'm losing control. It's unmanageable. And that scares me. Step 2. Come to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity. Now, sanity doesn't only mean mental health. Sanity comes from the word that means health. Complete health. Mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, absolute complete health. Come to believe. Now, AA is not a religion. It's not a religious organization. So they don't talk about God. They talk about a higher power, a power greater than you. Now, since we're all Catholics here, at least the vast majority of us, so if there are any non-Catholics here, don't give us any trouble. We can get you easy. But if you want to take this seriously, who is our higher power? And if you don't say Jesus Christ, you're in big trouble, okay? Jesus is our higher power. Jesus is our greater good. We turn to Jesus and we say, you are greater than I am. Only you can restore me. Only you can heal me. Now, you may use doctors and nurses. You may use therapists. You may use diet and exercise. You may use sleep to heal me. But you are the one who is healing me. And then the third step. Make a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God. Or the higher power if you prefer that, but I like God a lot better. Give your will and your life to God. From now on, I am following you, Jesus. I'm going to love you, and I'm going to love my neighbor whether I like them or not. And I will pay whatever price I have to pay. My time, my possessions, what I want, I will pay that price because that is how I find healing and how I thank you for it. So, if you're tired of being angry or afraid or lost or rejected or ignored or unwanted or laughed at, whatever demon is attacking you or whatever emptiness is trying to drown you, can you say, I can't control it. I don't have power over you. I can't. And then say, Jesus, you can do it. You can do it. You've done it billions of times in history. You can do it for me, right here, right now. And I'm giving myself to you. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do to be close to you, to imitate you, to live like you lived, to love like you loved, to forgive like you forgave, and to suffer like you suffered. That has to be part of our answer. Because if we want to exclude any of that, we're not really following Jesus, are we? We're doing our own little program, not his. That's what I think happened with Zacchaeus. Yes, he climbed the tree. But he was running away from his demons. And he had this crazy thought that Jesus could help him. And that crazy thought was absolutely right. And it's still absolutely right. Not only for every single person in this church, but for all the people in the houses all around it. People who maybe are lost, or who don't know who Jesus is, or who think they know Jesus, but they're full of beans. They don't know the man. How can we help them to know him? How can we, first of all, accept him ourselves honestly and follow him? How can we give generously like he gives? In the gospel, Jesus says, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a descendant of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save what is lost." So if you are lost, Jesus wants to save you. He's ready. He's been working at it all along. Can you admit you're helpless? He can save you. You'll follow him. That's the 3 steps to begin with. If you want to see the rest of them, go online and look up AA 12 Steps. It's an interesting program. Now, there are people who say it doesn't work for everybody. It's probably true. I don't know of any human system that is perfect, that works for everybody. But then Jesus isn't a human system, now is he? He's God. And he does work for everybody, without exception. Especially for those who don't like him and who don't want him and who run away from him. If you want another interesting thing to look up the poem, "The Hound of Heaven." It's an interesting poem. It's a rather over-the-top Victorian poem. It may not taste good. It's a bit much. But the imagery of the poem is, I ran away from God, and he chased me and never gave up. And I'm glad he finally caught me. The Hound of Heaven. That's also why we're having our capital campaign. Because we're trying not to just be comfortable here. Trying not to just do what we have to do. Just take care of the buildings. Just put on the mass. Just have good music and nice flowers and some pretty vestments. No. We need to do more. And we need money to do it. That's why we're trying to raise money. A few weeks ago, I asked you to make a pledge, or to think of it. We have some pledge cards in the pews. If you would now, please pass them down to people. If you already have yours, don't take one. If you've returned your pledge card, if you've made a pledge, thank you for your pledge. If you're still thinking about it, well, I'm all in favor of thinking carefully and thoroughly. But I'm also in favor of making a decision sooner or later. So I'm asking you, if you are ready to fill out your card and bring it up and put it in our pledge box. The pledge box is conveniently located right here. If you want to do it later, if you don't want to do it in front of everyone, I understand. I'm an admirably modest person myself. So you can do it when nobody's looking. Or you can mail it to the office or just slip it in the mail slot at 5 minutes past midnight. But I'm asking you to be like Zacchaeus. Not just in the pledge, but in everything. Be like Zacchaeus and say, my life either is unmanageable or is awfully close to being unmanageable. And I can't live with that. I need help. I need Jesus. And he's waiting for me. So if you take a few seconds, if you can fill out your card now, please do so. And drop it in the box, either now or after Mass, or mail it to us. And then we'll proceed with the Mass. The baby thinks the sermon should be longer. They're trying to help us out. So babies don't bother me. I'm glad to hear happy babies. The one thing parents tell me is it's the noisy babies don't bother them or worry them nearly as much as the quiet babies, because they wonder, is the baby sick? Why is the baby quiet? So when you hear a happy baby, you can't help but smile, can you? So I'm assuming that I made my share of noise when I was a baby, so I imagine all of us did once upon a time. We can thank the Lord for the babies who are healthy. And we ask him to heal the babies who are not healthy. And of course, one of the ways God will heal the babies is by taking care of their parents and the people who care for those babies. So see, when you start asking God for healing, it just grows and grows and grows. And there's no end to it until you get to heaven. And then you understand.